Good afternoon. I am Donovan Shanley.
I'm Betsy Bodwin, and this is the Voice of Duquesne Live. Now in sports. On March 8th, the Duquesne lacrosse team would take a 25-9 loss to St. Joseph's to open up A10 play. With the loss, the Dukes fell to 1-5 overall in the season. The Hawks would get off to a hot start, outsourcing Duquesne 9-2 in the opening quarter. The trend would continue with St. Joe scoring 4 or more goals every quarter. There were individual standouts on the offensive side, with a hat trick from Emma Rains and 2 goals from Chelsea Evans. Grayson Emerson is the nation's assist leader and tallied 6 in the contest. For the first time in over a month, the Dukes will play on Rooney Field, facing off with A10 rival Davidson.
On March 1st, the Duquesne men's tennis team picked up a 4-0 win against Lafayette, improving to 4-5 on the season. The Dukes started the day by claiming the doubles point after a shaky start. Enrique Lana, Ariel Kairatuna, and Alfredo Vogelar would all pick up singles wins for Duquesne. The 3 remaining matches were not needed. Duquesne returns to action on Saturday, hosting Binghamton at 3 p.m. for a non-conference match.
The Duquesne women's tennis team picked up a 4-1 win at Lafayette on March 1st, improving to a 4-8 record on the season. The Dukes came out sharp in doubles action. Seniors Alexandra O'Brien and Taja Yakunina secured a 6-3 win at number 2, while senior Yasa Roca and sophomore Denise Giarte were dominant at number 3, rolling to a 6-1 victory. Giarte, O'Brien, and Mila Baddix would seal wins in singles play, leading the Dukes to one of the smoothest wins of the year. Duquesne will host Binghamton at 3 p.m. on Sunday.
On February 28th, Sylvia Kashak set a Duquesne's 1,000-meter program record at the A10 Indoor Track and Field Championships. Her time of 2 minutes and 47 seconds would make her the first Duquesne female runner to break 2:50. The Dukes would finish 7th as a team. Freshman Brandy Brozeski earned a bronze medal in the pentathlon at Day 1, and sophomore Rose Gutierrez scored in all 3 of her events on the weekend. Both relays, the 4x400 and the 4x800, would score. Rose Gutierrez qualified for the NCAA Indoor Track and Field Championships in the long jump, becoming the first indoor national qualifier in program history. The event will take place on Friday afternoon.
On March 1st, the Duquesne bowling team finished its regular season with a 6th-place finish at the Stallings Invitational. The Dukes went 8-5 in the competition, totaling a 59-42 record throughout the season. On Day 1, the Dukes would post a 4-1 record in Baker action, only falling to number 6 Nebraska. The following day would be traditional, with a 3-2 record throughout the day. The losses would come against number 1 Jacksonville State and number 8 Youngstown State, so Duquesne only fell to ranked opponents. Consecutive wins over Prairie View A&M, Florida A&M, and Belmont Abbey would close the day and competition for the Dukes. Junior Maribeth Baker would be a standout in the Invitational, as she has been all season. She finished 4th individually, knocking down 1,097 pins, and posted an average of 219.4 through 5 games in the invite. On Friday, Duquesne will begin postseason play in a 3-day event, the ISC and ITC sectionals.
Last Wednesday, the number 7 Duquesne acrobatics and tumbling team swept all 6 events over number 10 Azusa Pacific, winning by a final score of 258.7 to 247.4. The Dukes broke or tied program highs in 10 heats in each of the 4 events in the victory. A 9.95 in compulsory toss was the highest score ever recorded by Duquesne in a single heat. Program highs in the pyramid and toss were nearly flawless. In tumbling, the trio of Franny, Johnson, and Goley tied a Duquesne high of 8.50, matching the score they set in the program's inaugural meet. Duquesne led 94.90 to 91.15 at the half and stamped the victory in the team event, scoring 84.97, their best of the season. On Sunday, the Dukes will travel to take on number 6 for Fairmont State.
Now let's head over to Brendan Flato to get a better look at the men's basketball team who has pushed their way to the second round of the A10 tournament.
Fans at the UPMC Chuck Cooper Fieldhouse may have just witnessed the greatest basketball game ever played. In downtown Pittsburgh, it was the Dukes and the Spiders prepared to battle in the final game of the regular season. It was a battle between the 2 big men tonight, as Richmond's 6'11 center Mike Walls went up against Duquesne legend David Dixon. Duquesne was down by 30 points in this one, and it wasn't until the second half when they finally found their offense. Alex Williams finished with 22 points, and 13 in the second half to lead the Dukes. And Max Edwards provided a spark for Duquesne off the bench. Duquesne only led one time in this game, but it was the only time that mattered. Late in the second half, Terrence Ginyard came up with a steal, then promptly hit a three to cut the lead to 4. Then just moments later, David Dixon, the man who has played the most games ever in a Duquesne uniform, made history. David Dixon, the man who has the most career wins in school history, claimed another one in dramatic fashion. Following the game, Dixon talked about the final play.
Honestly, words can't explain it. I don't know how to explain it. It's crazy. I didn't think it was gonna end that way, to be honest. But I'm glad we ended up making our way back. I had belief that we were gonna win the game, but I didn't know how. So I didn't think it was gonna end with me getting the tip and rebound. But I'm just happy to have my career at the Cooper Fieldhouse in a fashion like this. It's been a rough 4 years for me, but I've enjoyed every minute of it. You know what I'm saying?
With it being senior day, Dixon also talked about how special it was to play in front of his family, especially his dad.
It means everything to me, especially doing this in front of my family. This my dad's first game here since he had a stroke last year, so being able to win a game in front of him and playing as well as I did just meant the world to me. I'm trying not to cry right now, just thinking about him, but I'll be all right. Trust me.
Final from the UPMC Cooper Fieldhouse, the Dukes take it over the Richmond Spiders in the final game of the 2025-2026 regular season. It was a buzzer beater from David Dixon that lifted the Dukes to the win. It was a missed three-pointer by Terrence Ginyard and a tap-in from David Dixon that really set this place, which was an already electric crowd, into a frenzy. The Dukes will now turn their attention to the A10 tournament right across the street at PPG Paints Arena. Their first game will be Thursday against Rhode Island at 5 p.m. With tonight's game, David Dixon became the longest tenured Duke, or played the most games as a Duke in school history, so very impressive for David Dixon. He's one of the few players in college basketball right now who spent all 4 years at the same school. So if you can't make it out to PPG Paints Arena, make sure to tune in. It's Thursday at 5 p.m. Dukes versus Rhode Island. They're 1-1 against each other this year. So winner take all series Thursday night at the PPG Paints Arena. For the Voice of Duquesne Live, I'm Brendan Flato.
The women's basketball team also finished out the regular season and entered the A10 tournament. Brendan Flato has more.
On November 3rd, Duquesne tipped off the 2025-2026 season with an 89-60 win over St. Francis University. Since then, they've gone 11-17 overall and 4-13 in conference play. George Mason kicked off their season on November 3rd as well, but fell to Temple University in overtime. Since that point, the Patriots are 20-8 overall and 15-2 in the A10. After a long season, two very different stories were set to collide in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania at the UPMC Cooper Fieldhouse for one final game of the regular season. One of the nation's best three-point shooters, Alexis Bordas, and the Duquesne Dukes faced off with a dominant George Mason Patriot team. Despite early success, it was all George Mason in this one, as they would go on to win 65-48. Zariah Walchin had 16 to lead the Patriots, while Kennedy Harris and Jada Brown contributed double digits as well. The story of the game was George Mason's defense. They forced 20 turnovers and 13 steals. For Duquesne, they will now turn their attention to preparing for the Atlantic 10 tournament and their opening round matchup with VCU, who they defeated just a few games ago. After the game, I got the chance to talk with Coach Dan Burt. What's preparation going to look like for you guys heading into the A10 tournament?
We're going to be who we are, and we're going to be optimistic and determined. We are going to play at noon against VCU, is what I've been told. And we'll start our preparation for that tomorrow. We're fresh physically. I think a day off will be good for us mentally. I believe that locker room thinks that they can win. And I think there's a lot of people in the Atlantic 10 that don't really want to see us play. As a head coach, I have to prepare for the entire week, Our staff and our players will prepare for that very first game against VCU, and that'll start with Monday when we get on the floor at 9 a.m.
Final from the UPMC Cooper Fieldhouse, George Mason defeats Duquesne in the last regular season game of the season for the Atlantic 10 women's basketball schedule. With the win, George Mason claims the outright A10 regular season championship. At A10 Media Day prior to the season, their head coach, that was one of the talking points for them. They have a very veteran team. Duquesne, on the other hand, a very young team, and you could see it in the way that this game played out. Duquesne got out to an 8-0 run at the 4-minute mark in the first period, but then George Mason applied pressure, forced 3 consecutive turnovers on inbounds plays before getting a jump ball on the 4th one, and they've really just flustered Duquesne from there. The attention for Duquesne will now turn to their matchup against VCU next Wednesday in Henrico, Virginia for the Atlantic 10 Championship. For the Voice of Duquesne Live, I'm Brennan Flato.
The women's team went on to beat VCU in round 1, 60-52, and they fell to St. Joseph's in round 2, 45-66. This marked the end of their 2025-2026 season. Now, let's head over to Kylie Crocus with this week's weather.
Thanks, guys. Let's take a look at some weather because it's been really back and forth, but let's figure this out. So starting tomorrow on Friday, it's going to be windy with a high of 57 and a low of 32, so hold on to your hats. Moving into the weekend, it's going to be partly cloudy with a high of 46 and a low of 30. Moving into Sunday, cloudy skies with a high of 46 and a low of 30. Not too bad, but not the 70 degrees that we were seeing the week before. Moving to start the week off, Monday, 65% chance of rain with a high of 56 and a low of 26. Moving into Tuesday with some cloudy skies, a high of 28 and a low of 19. More cloudy skies on Wednesday with a high of 34 and a low of 21. And to end off the week, we're going to have a 45% chance of rain with a high of 46 and a low of 30. Now, let's head over to our friends over in Rome, Italy. On Friday, 70% chance of rain, but much higher temperatures. They're going to have a high of 62 and a low of 47. Saturday, to start off their weekend, it's going to be partly cloudy, partly sunny, with a high of 61 and a low of 44. Moving into Sunday to end off their weekend over in Rome, it's going to be cloudy skies with a high of 64 and a low of 45. Moving into Monday, to start off their school week over in Rome, 50% chance of rain with a high of 65 and a low of 45. Moving into Tuesday, 70% chance of rain with a high of 63 and a low of 47. Moving over into Wednesday, they're going to finally see some sunny skies with a high of 62 and a low of 42. Ending off their week over in Rome, they're going to have more sunny skies with a high of 59 and a low of 39. Moving over to Dublin, Ireland, starting off Friday, they're going to have some winds, just like over here in Pittsburgh, with a high of 48 and a low of 37. Moving into their weekend, as always, grab your umbrellas. You're going to be singing in the rain this week. Per usual, not as much as usual, though, with a high of 48 and a low of 38. Ending off their weekend, more winds with a high of 49 and a low of 38. Starting off their school week over in Dublin on Monday, they're going to have some more wind, so really going to be blowing all over the place. So if you got your umbrella, make sure you're holding on to it because it might turn inside out and nobody likes when that happens. With a high of 51 on Monday and a low of 39. Moving into Tuesday, 60% chance of rain with a high of 53 and a low of 47. Wednesday, 50% chance of rain with a high of 49 and a low of 41. Ending it off on Thursday, cloudy skies with a high of 52 and a low of 38. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you, Kylie. The men's basketball team plays Rhode Island tonight at 5 p.m. in the PPG Paints Arena. Let's head over to Brendan Flato to see what to expect.
All right, and we are here at PPG Paints Arena for the Atlantic 10 Championship. Day 1 is in the books. We now prepare for Day 2, which features Duquesne and Rhode Island, 5 o'clock. I've got Jack Morgan and Nick Fernball. They've been covering the Duquesne squad for a bunch of years now. So they're going to help us break down and prepare you all for tonight's matchup. So first off, what are you guys looking for as your keys to the win for Duquesne?
You want to kick it off, Jack?
Yeah, sure. I think Duquesne has to get a little more production from outside that top 4. It's been enough in a handful of games, and it's great they have guys like Alex Williams, Jimmy Williams, Terrence Ginyard and Dave Dixon playing great basketball. They really are, especially Dave. Shout out to him. But if you can get a guy like Max Edwards, like you got in Richmond, to get you a couple big buckets, maybe a little Jake DeMichael performance here, it would really go a long way. And also the rebounds. They need to make sure they rebound the ball efficiently. They did that very well in the Richmond game, out-rebounding the Spiders on the offensive glass 15-3 and winning the battle by 10 overall. So that could be a couple keys to Duquesne's success here on Thursday night.
Yeah, and I think one more thing I would like to highlight with this is the fact that the turnovers have to be slowed down. They gave up way too many turnovers in the road contest against Rhode Island, and this Rhode Island team is probably some of the best. They have the second best turnover margin in the entire A-10. This team knows how to make mistakes against a team like Duquesne who does turn the ball over a lot. So, I mean, this is a game where Duquesne playing clean basketball will go a long way towards slowing down Rhode Island.
Yeah, and Duquesne had a big win against Richmond, who we just watched play here in their game. They got eliminated, another comeback loss for them. But Duquesne, David Dixon, he's been on the team for 4 years. He had that big play to win the game against Richmond. How can Duquesne carry the momentum from that Richmond game at the UPMC Cooper Fieldhouse into this game?
Well, I want to point out one thing. That is their second blown lead of 15 or more points in a 5-day span in the city of Pittsburgh. I don't know any team that has done that
They might
twice
never
in
wanna
the
come
same
back.
city.
I don't
They're
think that'll
never
ever
coming
happen
back.
again.
They did it less than a half a mile away from the two arenas. It's unbelievable.
It is.
But Dave Dixon, he's riding a high right now. I mean, you kind of see the way that the fans are starting to buy into him even before senior day. Really just a love for Dave Dixon coming through. And every time he's on that court, he's a fan favorite. And I expect him to take that momentum. And for the Dukes as a whole, you're going to see a lot of Duquesne fans here. I mean, obviously, we talked about it. It matters that you get the people to come out to the game, and they've been doing all the work on campus. Terrence Ginyard bought 50 tickets. People should be at this game, and I think they will be. And I think you as well, and so will I, will be a little surprised and taken aback with how loud it's going to be. I really think Duquesne fans are going to come through, and I think that plays into the emotions, right? Having that emotional win, taking that high over a 3 or 4 day period, and then saying, hey, come on, we can do this. And I think that they have the talent to do it. They just got to get that consistency. And if you can stay consistent over a 3-day stretch here, you can win an A-10 championship. They've done it before. Who's to say they can't do it again with a guy who's on the bench for that time they did it 2 years ago?
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things is I've kind of joked with you about it, Jack. I feel like this team rides with like Dave and his emotions, the ups and downs.
Yeah.
And when you see Dave get hot and you get these dunks and he raises the roof, as we all like to like joke about it, it feels like everyone else, just not even just on the court, but in the student section, like Jack says, buys in. Everybody gets so invested. I mean, this guy has been here through every good and bad moment through Duquesne basketball over the past 4 years. And I think with him, if he plays at the level that he has been capable of all year, which includes that walk-off moment against Richmond, which that's just going to be forever cemented in history as one of the best moments of not just my life, but I think of any Duquesne fan's life. So yeah. I think having Dave play at a high level, which I know he is going to do, especially against a guy who's going to be a tough matchup like Itijere for Rhode Island, I think you're going to get a big boom of elevation of excitement in this crowd, and you're just going to see, I think, that match with Dave's play.
Yeah, and hopefully that big, exciting win, it kind of brings not only Duquesne fans, but Pittsburgh sports fans in general out here at the PPG Paints Arena for this game. You know, the video of that play was all over SportsCenter, so definitely a lot of people saw it. A lot of people in Pittsburgh saw it. Maybe they want to be a part of the March Magic of Duquesne here and come out to PPG Paints Arena to watch it.
They should.
I think the best,
definitely.
I think the best game that Duquesne played all season was that home game against Rhode Island. They were almost perfect from the free throw line, and if you're perfect from the free throw line in basketball, the chances of winning skyrocket for your squad. But real quick, before we wrap this up, can I get a player to watch from each of you guys for Duquesne and for Rhode Island if you got one?
Well, let's see. I think for Rhode Island, I went with Tyler Cochran in our pregame show, and also
did.
the article I wrote last night. Went with Tyler Cochran because he had 20 plus against Duquesne in the last game they played last week, and it felt like he was all over the courts. The one guy on the court who wasn't making any mistakes, he had 6 steals, by the way, in that game last week. So he doesn't just make an offensive impact, he makes a massive defensive impact, and he could be a huge player in this one in terms of deciding what the final score ends up being. And I think for the Dukes, it lies on the shoulders of the big fella, Dave Dixon, to get this energy right with this team in the first 6 or 8 minutes of this game. Because I think if they can get out to a good start by the under 12, their chances of winning feel much better when you're able to ride the Pittsburgh crowd instead of trying to continue to fight back, which they've done to their credits. But you always want to play from ahead, and Dave Dixon giving you the energy right out the gate will do that for you.
And as for me, I'm going to start with Rhode Island. I'm going to go R.J. Johnson, a guy who's been so feisty off the bench. He put up, I believe, 14 in the road contest against us, forced 2 steals. And this dude is causing just as much problems as Cochran. And when they're getting extra help off the bench, this team has been shown that they can pull off crazy upsets. They beat Dayton, they beat St. Louis. And a guy like R.J. Johnson kind of represents what Rhode Island needs to be at their best. And on Duquesne's end, I'm going with their best bench player, Alex Williams. I mean, you talk about energy with Dave. I mean, there is honestly, I think there's no one even more intense and just exciting to watch than Alex Williams. When he gets going and he gets physical and he gets down low, for a guy who's not as tall as Dave or Van Boosel or Atijere or other big centers, this dude plays like a center down low. It's one of the most impressive.
Like?
A linebacker. I will stand by that. He plays like a linebacker on a basketball court for all the right reasons. He is maybe one of the most exciting players I've ever seen. And if they want to go on a run, given how many problems they've had off the bench of consistency, he is their one kind of ray of light on the bench. So they need to lean on him heavy to get this win.
Yeah, I'm just going to add one more player here for Duquesne. If they're going to make a run, maybe they can get past Rhode Island without him being his best. But if they're going to make a run to the championship and into March Madness, they're going to need Jimmy Williams to get right and be able to contribute a little bit, because Ginyard and Dixon are going to be there. But if Jimmy Williams can add it, man, this team's scary going through the tournament.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's going to do it for us here, previewing this game from PPG Paints Arena. Now back to you guys in the studio.
Duquesne has hosted multiple tables in the Student Union this week for their Push Week. Push Week is a week full of pushing for registrations for their annual main event, the Dance Marathon, on Saturday, April 18th. So far this week, they've hosted a Dirty Soda Bar, a merch sale, and a St. Patty's Day supplies sale. The Dirty Soda Bar took place on Tuesday with various soda, syrup, and topping options. The merch sale was Wednesday, where they sold leftover 2025 Duquesne merch, and the St. Patty's Day supply sale included St. Patty's gear with temporary tattoos, beaded necklaces, glasses, headbands, stickers, and more. Push Week is an important week for Duquesne because it's a chance for us to fundraise as much as possible, said Duquesne Club member Emily Jones. Our fundraising goal for this week is $10,000, so we are all working hard to do our part in helping to reach that goal with fundraising.
This past Monday, the College of Liberal Arts held a lecture by Dr. Mark Haas, a political science professor here at Duquesne, on his newly published book, The Geriatric Peace, Population Aging and the Decline of War in the Africa Room. The lecture in Dr. Haas's book described how the likelihood of an international war decreases as median age across the world begins to rise. He says the book deals with a demographic phenomenon, and that's population aging. This is an irresistible, inevitable, and very powerful force. If you'd like to read more into his findings, his book is available digitally through the Gumberg Library.
On Tuesday, in the Africa Room, the Center for African Studies put together the Explore Africa presentation, a presentation about architecture in Latin America and Africa. The presentation was hosted by Wendy Perez Lopez, a Cuban architect who shared the projects that she worked on in those locations. The discussion included the topics of the history and economics of Cuba and how that played into architectural designs. It was a very interesting discussion that talked about the setbacks that Cuban and Africans' infrastructure faced and how the countries were able to progress beyond them.
Now let's head over to our pop culture segment to keep you in the know.
Hi, Kylie.
Hi, I'm Halen, and this is the Voice of Duquesne Live's Pop Culture Recap.
We're back from spring break, and you know who else is back?
I'm back from my sickness.
Oh, you're back from your sickness. I was talking about Harry Styles.
Well, yeah, Harry Styles.
Harry
is also
Styles is back with an album for us, but no, welcome back, Halen. She fell ill, but she's back and better than ever.
I was ill.
Yeah.
I was ill.
No longer. So
Harry Styles' new album healed me, as one might say.
it did. It's called
Kiss All the Time, Disco Occasionally.
There were a lot of mixed reviews. Like, I saw a lot of, some people really liked it. It was a concept album. He was trying a new style for sure, but I feel like he does that a lot. With a lot of his albums, he's kind of like tapping into different, like with his first album, he was kind of tapping into the rock, kind of grungy music.
Yeah, and I feel like he kind of followed in suit with that into Fine Line with songs like She.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like definitely She was
For
a
sure.
rock song.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very good.
Oh, very good.
But
this album.
Yeah, this album is just, I don't want to say it's like super different from what he's done.
It's conceptual.
It is conceptual.
It's definitely conceptual. Some people really liked it. It had, I feel like, a lot of upbeat.
Yeah, it was more so like upbeat.
Kind of.
There were a couple sad songs.
There's always going to be a couple of sad songs. It's
naturally.
Harry Styles. He has to slip it in there. But I feel like the overall vibe of the album, definitely disco.
Yeah, it really just gave like clubbing, but in like
in the UK.
In the UK, Britpop.
Britpop. No, it was. There were some people though that didn't like it at all. I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people were very critical over it. At least from what I've seen online.
I feel like there were people that were expecting it to be the same old Harry Styles, like Sign of the Times, this, and that, like the same. Like his popular songs are like always more sad. He's popular for a lot of his sad songs. So I feel like a lot of people were expecting that, especially that since this album, it's following Harry's House, isn't it?
Yes.
It's right after Harry's House. There was a lot of emotional songs in Harry's House.
Not right after.
Well,
5 years after. Or no, 4.
But it's the release following Harry's House, which was a little more sad. So this was more of a kind of like...
No, I do feel like Harry's House was very upbeat too.
Yeah.
And actually this new album reminds me of Harry's House. Like I feel like Harry's House is when he was like just starting to tap into that sort of like disco instrumental vibe. And then he just kind of fully dove into it. So
there was the single that he dropped was called Aperture, correct? That one was a lot of fun. Where it was very upbeat, we belong together in the chorus. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, I don't know, I feel like the vibe was just overall a really good time, kind of like bringing people together, like connecting people through music. And
yeah, I felt like it was really good. And I thought that it was
time.
nice, like the We Belong Together thing. It kind of like felt like he was saying like we belong together, like him and the fans, because he said so many times since coming out with the album and the single, you know, that this specific album made him fall back in love with music, like working on it and stuff.
I did hear him say, he said that at the Manchester, was it Manchester?
Yeah, one night in Manchester. He did a one-night concert in Manchester, and he
recorded it.
And
it got like published.
And it's on Netflix now.
Yeah, it was. Overall, I think a great vibe
Yeah.
of this album, so you should definitely go listen to it. Lots of fun. If you like Harry Styles especially, definitely go listen to it, because, you know, you might be graduated from grad school by the time he drops the next one. So
that's probably where I'll be.
Probably.
I'll be working my 9 to 5 and paying my taxes
in your
instead of
cubicle.
my
Oh
dad
my gosh,
doing it
Harry
for
Styles
me.
is dropping. But
In my cubicle. Yeah.
that's pretty much all we have.
Pretty much all we have.
So we hope you're enjoying your time back from spring break, and we'll see you guys next week, and back to you guys in the studio.
Hungry and in the mood for Hogan? Well, get it now, because starting April 13th, Hogan won't be available. Hogan is getting a glow-up. The idea of a newly renovated dining hall sounds great, but what does it mean for students while the renovations are underway? Well, there's obviously going to be some changes. For example, there will be more locations offering meal swipes. Some of these locations are Moonlit Burgers and Vibrant Sunshine. Along with having more locations accepting meal swipes, there will also be more flexibility with meal swipes at different locations. In addition to these expanding options for meal swipes, there will still be Taste of Hogan around campus. The fourth floor ballroom in the Student Union will be the new temporary home to Spoon and Fork, Bravo, the Oven, and the Dessert Station. The pavilion on A-Walk will hold the River City Grill and a news station with Asian-inspired dishes. Lastly, forget Food Truck Fridays. While these renovations take place, there will be food trucks every day. So even though Hogan's closing may be inconvenient and confusing, there are so many options on campus to step in while Hogan is unavailable. Though Hogan won't be gone for long, these renovations are set to be finished for the beginning of the 2026-27 school year. So get your Hogan while you can, because once April 13th hits, Duquesne dining is going to look seriously different. Be on the lookout for emails with more information.
Mario Day occurred this week, and the Commuter Center just had to celebrate. Our Alex Funk has more with this story.
Every week, the Commuter Center holds a few events to help get commuter students engaged with the rest of campus. This week, in celebration of Mario Day, which was March 10th, they held an event in which you could come down to the Commuter Center, play a couple of classic Mario games, and just have a little bit of fun. This event, which was held from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. on March 10th, was hosted by fellow commuter student Mohid. Mohit provided a modded Wii console loaded with a whole bunch of iconic Mario games. These included Mario Baseball, Mario Kart Wii, of course Super Mario Bros., and pretty much any other game that you can think of from around that era. Mohit also provided a bunch of snacks to help draw students in. As the event progressed, more and more students who were either just strolling through the commuter center or were already in the commuter center and were finishing up with their work, joined in on the fun. Overall, I think that this was a very fun event, and I would highly suggest that if you're looking for something to do throughout the day, come down to the commuter center and check out whatever events that they're holding.
We are officially back from break, so let's see what the VODL team was up to last week.
Hi, my name is Brendan from the Voice of Duquesne Live. Over break, I spent half of it in Pittsburgh here at Duquesne and the other half back at home in Philadelphia. On Saturday, I worked the women's basketball game for the TV broadcast. I did the under basket camera, some of the shots of which you see here. The game was against George Mason, and unfortunately, Duquesne lost. Then I went back home, got to go see a Flyers game at the cable box. And I came back to Pittsburgh. Got some shots up in the Power Center, and then got to see the greatest basketball game I ever played between Richmond and Duquesne. It was a David Dixon buzzer beater. Again, I worked the same camera as the women's game for the broadcast, and then also took the remote camera out onto the court post-game and got a shot of David Dixon jumping up onto the scores table, which was pretty cool. And then after that, I went to PPG Paints Arena for Penguins Flyers. And this game mattered because we won in a shootout. The Penguins, they lost to a team who's actively tanking. That's just a bad look for the Penguins, but, you know, we love to see it around here. Flyers pick up a big win. Trevor Zegras unstoppable. You see the save that won it from Dan Vladar right there. And then, yeah, basically that was the end of the break.
Hello, here with Brooke. Say hello. And you're never gonna guess what we're doing this time. Dyeing my hair. Yay! Again. Update. That is in. Wait, let me that. Let's be sideways. My hair's done. It's all black. And now this is my cat Ezzy. Say hi, Ezzy. My cat, and now we're making pierogies at about 1:19 in the morning.
So for the rest of the week after that weekend when Brooke went back to school, I pretty much just spent the whole week, all day, every day watching TV with my pets, pretty much. Until me and Brooke made plans to go to a cat cafe, so here's me getting ready to drive there. Fun fact about this excursion, I was under the impression that we were going to Lancaster Cat Cafe. Turns out my dear friend did not know where Lancaster was and thought that this cat cafe in Reading was Lancaster, so I had to drive an hour and a half to Lancaster, and then I drove back 45 minutes in the direction I just came, but it's okay. So we're at a cat cafe. This is Cupid.
So cute.
And of course, I brought a toy home for Ezzy. And then on Friday, I went to my friend's little sister's Sweet 16. It was 2010s themed.
Okay, ready? Oh wait,
Two
okay,
and one.
Wait, 2 and 1 vlog.
like
Ready? 3. Oh no.
Then on Saturday, I hung out with one of my really good friends from high school. Fun fact, we have the same name. Her name is also Kylie, but it was really good to see her again because we don't go to school near each other. Then to end off my break, Saturday night, I went out to Hibachi with my family and my boyfriend, and that was just really fun, and it was a great way to wrap up a relaxing but equally as fun spring break.
I'm Shanley from Voice of Duquesne Live. This spring break was a nice, relaxing time. I didn't really do much then. I live in Pittsburgh, so I stayed in town. But it was just a really nice time to relax, not do any assignments. I work at the power center, so I picked up some shifts over break because it was still open. In addition to that, I stopped by many places around the city. I went to the museum. Here's a picture of a cool painting that I took. And I also stopped by some different books and record stores, and even stopped by Sheetz, which is better than Wawa. But the highlight of the week is probably going to a Penguins game. Unfortunately, they lost, but they were down their two best players, and they won the next match, so that's my excuse for that. It was still a nice game. It went to a shootout, but unfortunately they lost. But they did get a point, so can't really complain that much. But yeah, it was a good break. It was just nice to relax, not have to worry about any assignments, especially after midterms, because my assignments were kind of piling up. But yeah.
Hi, so my break was pretty uneventful. I kind of just went home. Both my siblings were sick, so me and my family couldn't really do too much. So I kind of just hung out at home, and I hung out with a few friends too. I got to see my grandfather, who recently just got hip surgery like a month or two ago, and he's doing a lot better now. And it was really nice to see him. And I got to hang out with him and his dog and kind of help him out around the house and stuff. And I got to see my dogs back home too. And yeah, that was pretty much all I did. Nothing too crazy. I hung out with friends. Mainly that was like the main thing that got me out of the house. So my friend Katie came home for her break. She goes to Pitt. She came home for her break on last Friday, and we went out to dinner together. And then Saturday night, me and a few of our other friends came over to her house and spent the night and hung out before I inevitably went back here. And yeah, that was pretty much my entire break in a nutshell. Just boring and uneventful. Kind of just laid back and took some time to relax, to kind of take a break from all the stress with like school and stuff. So
This spring break, I went to St. Augustine, Florida, and I got to lay on the beach and meet a bunch of animals.
Now for academic insights. Archiving Before and After Tragedy is an upcoming event at the Gumberg Library. This program explores how the strong pre-existing relationship between the Raw Jewish History Program and archives and the local Jewish community shaped the response to the 2018 synagogue shooting and examines the lessons that can be drawn from that experience, lessons that are valuable to anyone working in public history, even outside the context of a community crisis. It will be held on March 19th from 12:30 to 1:30 p.m. in Gumberg's popular reading room. Tracking Firearms Today, Advances and Challenges. Register to join Sergeant Timothy Cole in the Pittsburgh Bureau of Police Major Crimes Unit, Thomas Morgan, supervisor at the Cuyahoga County Regional Forensic Science Laboratory, and Joseph Price, a former assistant special agent in charge of the Philadelphia Field Division of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. They discuss the challenges of identifying and tracking guns used in crimes. The event will be held on March 27th from 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. in the Student Union Room 119. I'm Donovan Shanley.
I'm Betsy Bodwin. We hope to see you next Thursday.